Stop everything you are doing right now. I am about to reveal why 99% of people will die having never truly lived a single day of their own life. And if you are watching this video right now, questioning your past choices, sensing a dangerous gap between your potential and your reality, this next strategic period is the most critical of your existence. Picture this chilling scenario. The ordinary man operates under a dangerous psychological illusion that his words disappear into thin air and his vulnerability is safe. He is an open book, but the truth is, being known is the ultimate vulnerability. Every detail he shares, every weakness he exposes, and every plan he broadcasts to gain validation becomes a loaded weapon in the hands of his adversaries. Your fears are now someone else's leverage. Your next move is already being anticipated and countered. This is the invisible prison of modern life: transparency. You are predictably giving away your power because you mistakenly believe honesty equals strength. Niccolo Machiavelli, the master of strategic necessity, knew this was a fatal flaw. He understood that true, enduring power does not shout. It moves like a ghost, outsmarting everyone not through force, but through superior concealment. The vulnerability of transparency, the key to your freedom, the map to seizing your own throne, lies in mastering the code of the unread. You will learn why conformity is actively killing your potential, and why embracing strategic opacity, the deliberate act of remaining unreadable, can make you unstoppable. Machiavelli's work was not written to make you comfortable. He wrote it to show you precisely how to command control in a world structurally designed to keep you kneeling. We are going to give you the exact blueprint to construct a life so strategically opaque and powerful that others will be compelled to rearrange their own reality around your will. This transformation requires you to shed the comfortable lie of radical openness. Never let them know your next move. Machiavelli provided the anchor for this strategic shift. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. For you, the modern strategist, this means judging your success by the control you exert over your environment. The code begins with silence. I warn you, once you absorb the strategic implications of this lesson, you can never retreat. You will never look at your life, your dependencies, or your conversations the same way again. Drop this affirmation in the comments and solidify your commitment. I choose my path. My life is my command. Number 1. The Vow of Silence. Non-verbal command. The first non-negotiable step in mastering the code of the unread is to execute an unyielding vow of silence. This is not about remaining quiet. It is about surgically controlling the primal, self-destructive urge to speak. The moment you feel the impulse to talk, to fill the quiet, or to explain your actions, you must internalize a fundamental truth. Your words are costing you power. For the vast majority of men, the mouth is a constant source of strategic betrayal. They mistake participation for value, compulsively filling every conversational pause with noise, opinions, and desperate chatter. They talk because they are nervous. They explain because they are seeking validation. And they argue because they crave external approval. But the true strategist understands that silence is an aggressive psychological weapon, the psychological weight of opacity. When you deliberately practice verbal parsimony, you engage powerful psychological mechanisms. First, gravity is established. People pay exponentially more attention when you finally do speak, because your words are a rare event. Second, foresight is assumed. Others instantly presume your thoughts are meticulously calculated and therefore possess greater strategic weight than the constant noise of your peers. Third, information flow reverses. Adversaries start sharing more valuable information with you because you are not competing for the microphone, and they feel a psychological need to fill the void. The man who talks constantly becomes background noise. The man who speaks with precision becomes someone everyone must listen to. Machiavelli implicitly advocated for this strategic restraint, knowing that power is often found in the unseen. The ultimate power move is to communicate your intentions non-verbally through unshakable presence rather than through cheap rhetoric. Silence as a psychological weapon. Your vow of silence must be enforced consistently across all interactions. The provocation test. Imagine a colleague attempts to bait you by launching a provocative question about a controversial project. The amateur immediately defends, revealing their emotional investment. You, the strategist, maintain total silence. You hold unwavering eye contact, giving the adversary no verbal surface to latch onto. That silence forces them to break their own composure, either by retracting the question or by revealing their own hidden bias and agenda just to relieve the tension. Your non-reaction denies them the leverage they desperately sought. The false urgency trap. In a negotiation, the other side presents an aggressive offer and says, "We need an answer right now." The undisciplined person reacts with a rushed counteroffer, conceding value under pressure. You deploy strategic silence. You hold the pause until the other side, uncomfortable with the silence, starts negotiating against themselves, perhaps asking, "Is that number not workable?" You win by forcing them to bid up their own offer. The information hoard. When someone asks you for a personal opinion on a sensitive topic, you resist the urge to provide a detailed confession. Instead, you offer a neutral, generalized observation, and then immediately turn the conversation back to the speaker with a focused question. You become the essential collector of intelligence, leaving others feeling validated for talking, while revealing nothing of value about your own position. The non-verbal command, this vow of silence, extends beyond mere verbal restraint. It demands mastery over non-verbal communication. When you are not speaking, your body language must project absolute control. Your eyes must be steady and commanding, never darting around seeking approval. Your posture must be composed and still, betraying no sign of fidgeting or discomfort. Every non-verbal signal must reinforce the message. I am certain. I am in control. This deliberate physical stillness is what allows you to absorb the chaos of the room without being contaminated by it. By taking this vow, you transform yourself from an open book into an enigma. You force your environment to respect your depth and your time. The silence you create becomes a psychological vacuum that draws power toward you. This discipline is the absolute first step in ensuring that no one ever knows your next move until it is already too late to stop you. Number 2, the unmapped mind, strategic opacity. The second law in mastering the code of the unread is the conscious cultivation of strategic opacity. This is the deliberate, necessary act of obscuring your true intentions, concealing your long-term ambitions, and surgically controlling every fragment of information that flows from you. If the vow of silence is your initial defense, opacity is your active psychological camouflage. The moment your adversaries believe they have successfully mapped your mind, when they think they know your weaknesses, your goals, and your next 3 moves, you become immediately predictable and thus fatally powerless. The psychological peril of exposure. You must reject the modern temptation of transparency. Most people are pathologically driven to leak information for 2 primary, debilitating reasons: seeking validation or seeking emotional relief. They share their nascent dreams hoping for praise. They confess their fears hoping for sympathy. But every word spoken, every detailed plan revealed, creates a potential vulnerability that an intelligent adversary can exploit. Your next move, shared in a moment of weakness, becomes a known blockade for your rivals. Your genuine aspirations become targets for quiet sabotage. Machiavelli explicitly warned against this structural vulnerability, stating, "It is unnecessary to speak of everything you think." This is not merely life advice, it is a strategic mandate. You owe no one, save your closest, most vetted allies, access to the true landscape of your strategic mind. Your goals are not topics for casual discussion, they are classified assets. The strategic value of the unknown. Opacity functions because the unknown is always psychologically more potent than the known. When people cannot accurately decipher your angle or predict your response, they are forced into a state of continuous, respectful hesitation. This sustained uncertainty compels them to attribute more intelligence, more capability, and more resources to you than you may actually possess. They respect what they fear, and they fear what they cannot calculate. This is the power of the unmapped mind. You deny your adversaries a stable target. Your strength becomes an unknown quantity, and therefore potentially limitless. To maintain this unreadability, you must execute precise behaviors. Vague language protocol. When asked about the future, never provide specifics. Use vague, confident language. Instead of saying, "I'm launching a service in the third quarter targeting the pharmaceutical sector," state, "I'm optimizing my current resources to seize a significant opportunity in the market within the next 6 months." You satisfy the curiosity while revealing zero actionable data. Conceal the why. You may reveal the what, but you must strictly conceal the why. By hiding your motivation, you prevent adversaries from creating traps that play on your genuine interests. Misdirection. When necessary, deliberately discuss irrelevant, low-stakes projects with high energy. This consumes the attention of low-level competitors, diverting their resources while you execute your true mission in the shadows. The future is closed. When discussing setbacks, avoid emotional confessions. Frame all difficulties as investments that did not yield the required return, and pivot immediately to your next move, ensuring the past is closed and the future is an absolute mystery. By cultivating strategic opacity, you transform yourself from a predictable target into an unreadable force, ensuring that when you finally execute, your power is not a surprise. It is an irreversible, unchallengeable fact. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My next move is classified. I am the unknown. Number 3. The law of controlled absence. Leverage through scarcity. The third law in mastering the code of the unread is the structural enforcement of controlled absence. The catastrophic delusion that most men harbor is that being universally available and perpetually present automatically translates into importance. They are profoundly mistaken. Strong men understand the devastating, silent power of strategic absence. You have no strategic mandate to attend every social gathering, nor must you instantly reply to every message. Sometimes the single most potent action you can execute is simply not being there. Machiavelli warned against the peril of overexposure, stating, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." This is the core psychological mechanism at work. When your presence is a constant, common commodity, you become psychologically predictable and ordinary. Conversely, when your presence is meticulously, selectively deployed, you instantly become valuable, sought after, and your influence holds measurable weight. The psychology of scarcity and desire. This principle operates universally, dictated by the psychology of scarcity. The friend who is always available becomes utterly taken for granted. The individual who is selective with their time becomes instantly appreciated. The man who responds to every text message instantly signals desperation and lack of priorities. The man who deliberately takes his time signals high value because he is genuinely busy pursuing greater, more important objectives. Strong men understand that scarcity is the fundamental engine of value. When you render yourself universally accessible, always responding, and always available, you become common, predictable, and ultimately forgettable. Your strategic mandate is to learn to withdraw strategically to command demand. To execute this, you must deploy strategic withdrawal in every domain, making your absence a deliberate, communicative tool. Deny immediate access. If a colleague sends a non-urgent email, the weak man replies in 5 minutes, setting a fatal expectation of instant availability. The strategist replies only after a calculated delay of several hours, often outside the typical workday. This is not rudeness. This strategically teaches the recipient that your time is a finite, valuable resource, forcing them to prioritize their next message to you and simultaneously increasing the weight of your eventual response. Ration social presence. You should never wait until the energy has peaked and conversation stalls. Leave the gathering while the engagement is still high, or end a conversation while the other party still has questions. This creates a powerful psychological deficit. You make people want more of you, not less. You leave them with a strong, lingering, positive impression that compels them to initiate the next contact. The unpredictable boundary. You must eliminate the pattern of being reliably available. You transform yourself into a commodity that is prized by picking and choosing when and where you appear. This forces others to pay attention, to wonder what grand strategy you are executing while absent, and to genuinely appreciate you when you decide to grant them your presence. The law of revoked privilege. Your ultimate goal is to revoke the privilege of your presence when it is being abused or taken for granted. This is a cold, necessary strategic maneuver. Imagine a high-stakes business negotiation scenario. You are seeking a critical partnership, and the opposing firm knows you are eager, so they delay responding to your final proposal for 2 weeks, attempting to generate anxiety and force concessions. The predictable outcome from a weak position would be frantic follow-up emails, lowering your price with each message. Instead, you execute strategic withdrawal. You deliberately halt all communication and, instead of waiting, you subtly, but visibly, launch a small, promising public pilot project with a competitor. The strategic result is immediate. The original firm sees this action and realizes you are not dependent on them. They are compelled to break their own silence and rush back to the table, demonstrating that they are more afraid of your absence and your alternatives than they are of losing the deal. Your absence is an active strategic tool. Use it to increase your value. You are forcing the world to recognize your worth by temporarily denying them access to it. This structural shift ensures that you are seen as an essential asset who must be pursued, not a guaranteed presence who can be ignored. Number 4. Emotion as intel. Denying the reaction. The fourth, and perhaps most vital law in mastering the code of the unread is to execute a strategic inversion of feeling. You must treat emotion not as a dictator, but as intelligence. This means enforcing a non-negotiable, unreadable composure under every pressure scenario. For the majority of men, a surge of anger, fear, or frustration is an immediate command for action. They are psychologically compromised by this reflex, making them predictable, easy to manipulate, and incapable of clear thought when it matters most. Your goal is not the impossible task of eliminating emotion. It is the strategic necessity of denying the outward reaction. Every emotional spike, the sudden rush of heat, the tightening in the chest, is merely a signal that something has crossed your psychological perimeter. You must receive that signal, analyze its meaning, and then deliberately choose a response that maximizes your advantage rather than immediately surrendering to the impulse. The vulnerability of emotional leakage. When an individual loses composure, they immediately hemorrhage strategic information. Anger reveals their precise trigger points. Visible fear exposes their deep-seated insecurity. Frantic sadness signals that they are vulnerable to manipulation or immediate retreat. The wise strategist understands that maintaining composure is a psychological victory because it forces the adversary to guess your internal state. Imagine a high-stakes team meeting where a rival, threatened by your competence, launches a weaponized critique of your plan. The attack is designed not to correct, but to provoke. The amateur immediately defends, allowing the adversary to see their anger and fear, thus confirming the success of the attack. The master of composure employs a different calculus. You allow yourself to feel the surge of anger, but you simultaneously execute a mental pivot. This anger is useful. It tells me this person feels threatened by my success. I will receive this data, but I will not allow it to affect my vocal tone or posture. You maintain absolute stillness, meet their gaze, and respond with cold, measured questions that shift the focus from your emotion to their facts. You force them to operate logically, while they were aiming for emotional chaos. The unreadable composure. The primary objective of this law is to achieve unreadable composure. If an adversary can't figure you out, they default to fear and respect. Deny external validation. When praise arrives, accept it neutrally. When criticism lands, absorb it without flinching. Neither should be allowed to disrupt your internal equilibrium or provide data on your true emotional baseline. Observe, don't react. Train yourself to watch your emotions from a distance. View them as distinct, external entities providing useful intel, not as commands you must obey. This mental distance is where true strategic clarity resides. Control the pause. When confronted with a shocking revelation or an aggressive question, the crucial moment is the pause before you speak. Use this pause to deliberately inject strategic thought, ensuring your response is calculated and not merely a defense of your ego. Machiavelli defined the ideal state of the leader. A prince should seem to be merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright, and should be so, but with his mind so disciplined that when it becomes necessary to be the contrary, he knows how. For the modern strategist, this means your mind must be so rigorously disciplined that you can choose the strategic display, whether calm, reserved, or even angry, based on maximum utility, not based on involuntary emotional impulse. By denying the external world the gratification of your reaction, you transform their aggressive actions into your own personal source of intelligence and psychological leverage. You stop being a pawn reacting to their moves and start becoming the sovereign player who dictates the terms of engagement. Number 5. The ambiguous handshake. Selective trust. The fifth law in the code of the Unread demands a ruthless strategic realization. You must stop confusing friendship with alliance. The majority operate under the fatal illusion that personal warmth and trust guarantee strategic loyalty. They are profoundly mistaken. The truly powerful refuse to rely on emotional bonds. They place their absolute faith in systems, leverage, and necessity. This law governs the strategic use of alliances and mandates that you treat trust not as a gift, but as a calculated, temporary risk. The vulnerability of blind trust, your commitment to the code of the Unread, requires the elimination of vulnerability, and blind trust is the greatest vulnerability you possess. When you share critical resources, secrets, or strategic plans based purely on sentiment, you expose yourself to the inevitable reality of human nature, self-interest. Machiavelli observed that individuals remain committed to a course of action only as long as it directly benefits them. When the incentives shift, loyalty evaporates. The strongest foundation is necessity, not affection. Consider a scenario where you enter a critical business venture with a longtime friend. The naive truster relies on the friendship history, sharing all proprietary information and neglecting to install formal contracts or exit clauses. Result: when the market turns and the friend faces personal risk, they prioritize their own survival, leaving you exposed to failure because the emotional bond was weaker than the financial pressure. The strategist maintains the warmth of the friendship, but structures the business relationship with formal contracts, clear accountability metrics, and protective exit strategies. They trust the system, not the sentiment. They assume self-interest will govern the friend's behavior, and they build their defense accordingly, trusting systems over sentiment. To apply the law of controlled absence, you must systematically shift your reliance. Trust data, not promises. Judge people exclusively on their consistent, quantifiable actions and results, not on their verbal assurances or stated good intentions. Your focus should be on their patterns of execution, which are a reliable predictor of future loyalty. Codify everything. Alliances must be codified. Never rely on a handshake for a high-stakes agreement. The system ensures that if the relationship breaks down, your strategic interests are protected by a defined, non-emotional structure. Maintain information asymmetry. Even within an alliance, you must maintain control over the flow of information. Do not give an ally the complete picture of your overall strategy. They need to know their part, but the ultimate map remains yours alone. This preserves your unique, overarching leverage. Machiavelli warned against this fundamental human failing. Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. Love is unreliable because it depends on their feelings. Fear is reliable because it depends on their self-interest. By building structures, systems, and contracts, you introduce the fear of consequence into every relationship, making it strategically stable. The strategic use of friendship. This rule is not a mandate to isolate yourself. It mandates that you use friendship strategically. Treat potential allies with warmth, generosity, and respect, but keep them on a psychological leash of utility. They must feel valued for their association with you, but they must also understand that the alliance is contingent upon shared strategic success. When you cultivate this ambiguous handshake, you transform every relationship from a source of vulnerability into a source of calculated strength. You maximize the benefits of collaboration without incurring the fatal costs of blind, sentimental trust. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust systems. My alliances are assets. Number 6, the contingency mandate. The power of true unpredictability. The 6th law in mastering the code of the unread is the structural commitment to the contingency mandate. You must always possess Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. This is the ultimate, non-negotiable insurance policy against failure, and it is the single greatest source of true, unassailable unpredictability. When you are emotionally or strategically attached to only one outcome, that single job, that one partner, or that specific investment, you are fundamentally vulnerable. That single attachment grants the external world a perfect lever to apply pressure and dictate terms. Machiavelli on fortune and control. Machiavelli viewed external circumstances, or fortune, as a wild, uncontrollable force, often likened to a torrential river that sweeps away all those unprepared for its power. He mandated that a leader must be ready to resist it. Fortune is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force. For the modern strategist, that force is the sheer volume of viable alternatives you possess. You conquer fortune not by hoping for the best, but by being structurally prepared for the worst. The individual with no alternatives is a slave to circumstance. The individual with multiple, viable alternatives is a master of their fate. The psychology of detachment and leverage. The primary psychological benefit of the contingency mandate is detachment. When you know that the failure of Plan A will not result in a personal or financial catastrophe, your internal neediness vanishes. You negotiate better because you are visibly ready to walk away. You deal with setbacks cleanly because they are processed as mere data points, indicating the need to switch to Plan B, not as personal disasters. Your adversary, sensing your deep-seated lack of desperation, is forced to conclude that they hold little to no leverage over you. Your true power comes from the fact that you are not beholden to any single person's yes or no. Building structural resilience. To build this level of structural resilience, you must apply the mandate universally. Financial resilience. Never rely on a single income source. Cultivate at least 2 separate, reliable revenue streams. Relationship resilience. For any critical project, ensure you have multiple capable allies who can step into a vital role if the primary person betrays you or fails. Trust the system, not the emotional bond. Skill resilience. Never rely on a single niche skill. Continually develop secondary, high-value competencies so that if your primary industry shifts or collapses, you are not rendered obsolete. The goal is to eliminate the catastrophic failure point. When you maintain multiple options, you transform external uncertainty into internal stability. Your readiness to walk away is precisely what compels people to meet your terms. You make yourself truly unpredictable because your adversaries can never accurately calculate the cost of pushing you too far. The wise man never bets his entire kingdom on a single throw of the dice. Number 7. Revelation of power. The 7th and concluding law of the Code of the Unread is the most critical. It is the mastery of when and how to break your strategic silence for maximum irreversible impact. Your goal throughout the entire process, from Law 1 to Law 6, has been concealment, information gathering, and the conservation of power. The revelation of your hand must, therefore, be a final, decisive act that ends the current phase of the game and secures an objective that cannot be easily reversed or challenged. For the untrained mind, silence is a difficult burden. They break it impulsively to defend their ego or to seek validation. For the master strategist, silence is a meticulously stored force, unleashed only for strategic execution. The law of the decisive reveal. You must adhere to the principle of decisive revelation. Your move should possess the finality of a verdict, not the uncertainty of a proposal. The conditions for breaking silence and revealing your true strength or objective are stringent and strategic. Guaranteed success. You only reveal your plan or objective when the foundational elements are 80 to 90% complete and success is structurally guaranteed. Never speak prematurely of a plan you cannot execute, as this transforms your ambition into a weakness others can easily sabotage. Irreversibility. The action you announce or reveal must be difficult, if not impossible, for your adversaries to counter or reverse. The time for them to prepare a defense must already have passed. Maximum shock value. The revelation should possess shock and awe. The contrast between your previous silence and your sudden, powerful action amplifies the perception of your competence and foresight. This shock establishes your dominance and forces immediate respect. Machiavelli warned against the danger of hesitation when force is required. Severities should be dealt out all at once so that their suddenness may give less offense. Your revelation of power should feel like a single necessary severity, a decisive, complete action that leaves no room for debate or protracted conflict. The echo of the execution. The power of the final move lies in its ability to redefine your reputation instantly. Your previous silence, which was viewed as mere reserve, is now correctly interpreted as strategic calculation and lethal patience. This sudden display of competence and foresight forces your environment to respect your depth. Your words, once reserved, are now heavy with command. They carry the weight of executed action, not empty promise. The strategic move is not simply to speak. It is to execute the action and then let the results speak for you. This irreversible execution ensures that your influence is cemented and your path to sovereignty is secured. The strategic journey is now complete. You have successfully acquired the Code of the Unread, a comprehensive blueprint for achieving psychological invincibility and commanding power, not through visible force, but through superior, calculated concealment. For the past moments, you have systematically dismantled the comfortable, self-sabotaging notion of transparency, and you have replaced it with the 7 laws of strategic opacity. Let the totality of this knowledge now solidify in your mind. The journey began with Law 1, the Vow of Silence, demanding that you master the primal urge to speak and wield stillness as your primary psychological weapon. This foundation prepared you for Law 2, the unmapped mind, where you learned to ruthlessly conceal your true intentions and strategic timetable, transforming your ambiguity into a source of immense respect and fear. You reinforced this with Law 3, the law of controlled absence, understanding that scarcity elevates your value, compelling others to pursue your attention rather than take it for granted. Your internal architecture was fortified by Law 4, emotion as intel, where you made the pivotal choice to treat all feelings as mere data points for analysis, thus denying your adversaries the emotional leverage they seek. Your relationships were restructured by Law 5, the ambiguous handshake, demanding that you trust in codifying systems and necessity over the fatal vulnerability of sentimental friendship. This structure was secured by Law 6, the contingency mandate, which mandates that you always possess viable alternatives, rendering you immune to pressure and truly unpredictable because you are never dependent on a single outcome. Finally, you learned Law 7, the final move, which governs when and how to break your silence for maximum irreversible impact, ensuring your actions are verdicts, not mere proposals. You have been granted a profound strategic advantage, but knowledge without immediate, decisive application is merely passive entertainment. The world is full of individuals who possess theory. It is desperately short of those who possess the discipline to execute. The Code of the Unread is your map to self-sovereignty, but you must be the one to physically claim the territory. Your enemies and rivals will continue to operate under the old predictable rules of emotional leakage and unnecessary transparency. They will continue to rely on the hope that you will revert to your former, controllable self. Your mission is to deny them that comfort. You must transform these 7 laws into a single, unyielding operational identity. Your composure must become so structurally sound that it requires zero conscious effort. Your silence must be so potent that it makes your environment question their own intentions. Machiavelli defined the essence of a worthy ambition. The desire to acquire is a natural and ordinary thing, and when men who can do acquire, they will be praised or not blamed. You now possess the strategic capacity to acquire your goals without compromise. The only thing left to acquire is the will to apply this code without apology. Your legacy will be determined not by the noise you create, but by the quiet, unreadable strength you deploy. Make your commitment absolute. Drop this final, binding affirmation into the comments. I am the code. I am the unread. My will is final.